All right, does everybody see the first slide?
Yes.
All righty. So welcome everybody to the Globe Smap Soil Moisture Measurement Field Campaign. This is the, oh, I forgot to change it, sorry. This is a May 3rd webinar, and we have some really cool stuff today. I'm going to have an update from Dr. Erica Podest from the Smap science team at the NASA Jet Propulsion Laboratory in Pasadena, California. She was going to talk to you about some of the Smap data products that we're getting. So really cool stuff there, as well as we have a presentation from the students at Bowling Green State University and their research on the Smap campaign and the Smap soil moisture data collection they've been doing. And then we have a couple of videos I want to show you. Some of you may have seen these before, but these are really cool teaching tools to use in your classroom. And then I'll talk about where we're going with the Smap campaign and what it's going to basically become within, after this webinar. We're sort of transitioning into something else due to consolidation and looking at the bigger picture and not just one specific satellite. So nobody should feel sad that the actual Smap campaign is going to be transitioning into something else, but the data will continue. So I'm going to move on to the next slide, and this is a video called Smap Dishing the Dirt. And this is pretty cool because it's a whiteboard video. It's a great educational video that you can use in the classroom. It's good for the public as well, and science centers, places of that nature. So I'm going to start this right now.
Did you know that soil under your feet contains some of the most important water on Earth? And keeping track of this soil moisture is an important mission for NASA. Think of soil as a sponge. It can absorb a lot of water, but will eventually become full, or it can dry out as the water evaporates. Knowing when the soil is getting too dry helps us plan for droughts, prepare for food shortages, and identify places where wildfires can spring up. Knowing when the soil is too wet and can't absorb more rain helps us better predict floods and landslides. The best way to monitor soil moisture is not from the ground, it's from space. So NASA does this with special instruments orbiting high above us. Tracking soil moisture from space helps us improve weather forecasts and climate models. And it helps farmers know when to plant, water, and harvest their crops. Everyone on Earth benefits from the study of soil moisture. It's one case where NASA dishing the dirt is good for all of us.
All right, so that's just a nice short version that really discusses the applications that can be utilized looking at the Smap soil moisture data. You saw that everything from weather and climate forecasting, flood and drought prediction, the applications like that. So it's a really cool video. It really gets the point across in a short amount of time, and it does it in a nice user-friendly way. So that's just one example. I have another video to show you towards the end of the webinar, but I will move it over to Erica. Dr. Erica Podest will talk to you about some of the data products and some of the Smap data things that you might not know about. And I'll pass it over to you, Erica.
Thank you, Brian, and thank you everyone for joining the telecon today. So I wanted to talk about two things that I thought you guys might find interesting about Smap. First of all, I'll talk about one of the things that makes Smap very unique is that we have a special filter to filter out noise. So there's something called RFI, radio frequency interference. And there's a lot of this interference around the world, and some areas have more than others. The sources, we're not sure what the sources are in all cases. A lot of times the military, the frequency that they use to transmit communications is in this frequency, but in other parts of the world, we're not really sure what's the main source. Anyway, the issue is this is a problem. So if you look at the image that's on the left-hand side, that's a Smap image, and you can see that the red spots, the red dots, that's interference. okay? But we have a filter that picks up this interference, this noise in the data, and it can filter it out. So at the end of the day, we have an image after the filter is applied that looks like the one on the right-hand side, okay? So the one on the left has interference, the one on the right, we've applied the filter, and it's clean. And so this really allows us to have a much cleaner data globally, and of course, much cleaner and noise-free soil moisture products globally. Next one. Okay, so the other thing I wanted to show you that I thought you might find interesting is that Smap not only produces soil moisture, but it also produces the freestyle product, which I've talked about. But there are other things that you can do with the data. Let me explain the difference between the data and the product. So the data is the observation that's made by the instrument on board Smap. So think of the data as a photograph, right? So you take a photograph of whatever, your garden, okay? And the photograph has many different details and shades of color. And so from that photograph, you can produce a map. So you run an algorithm that detects where the grasses, where the flowers are, where the trees are, and then you produce a map that has certain colors for the grass. So say the grass is green, the trees are brown, the flowers there are specific colors, so the flowers are represented in red. And so all of the different objects in your photograph have different colors. So that's what a map is. That's what the product is. You're creating something from the data, which is a map. All right. So the same thing with Smap. We collect the data, the observations, and we produce soil moisture globally. And there are other things that you can do with the data that's collected. And the Smap science team and the scientific community is starting to explore what else you can do with that data. And one of the things is generating products on the salinity of the ocean. So this animation that you see here has actually both. So the colors that you see on land represent soil moisture. The yellow colors on land are areas where the soil moisture is low, and the areas that are blue over land are areas where the soil moisture is high, okay? Now, if you look over water, it's a different information, okay? So over water, over the oceans, the colors represent salinity. So areas that are yellow represent high salinity, and areas that are blue represent low salinity. And this is really cool. So you can clearly see certain things. Let's just focus on salinity here. You can see that the Atlantic is generally more saltier than the Pacific. You can see that the Mediterranean Sea is also quite salty. You can see that areas in the northern high latitude, especially along the coast of Alaska and Canada, are low in salinity. There's a lot of fresh water that flows there, as well as in Eurasia. Okay, so there are these different patterns of salinity, and salinity is very important. It can drive weather patterns and winds and ocean currents and many different aspects that affect the local weather. And so we're very excited about being able to generate these products. One more thing to point out about salinity, if you look at the mouth of the Amazon, so can you run it again, Brian? You can see that kind of a blue plume, and that's a freshwater plume that flows out into the Atlantic from the Amazon. And this time frame is relatively short, so it goes from May, let's see, through June to late June, early July. But if we were to look at this plume during the high flood season in the Amazon, you'd see that it becomes very, very large, this plume, this freshwater plume. So it's really interesting to look at these type of things and see where the fresh water is flowing into the ocean, the different salinity of the oceans around the world, etc. So this gives you an idea then of what we're producing, and same way we're producing these type of products, this sea surface salinity type of product, there are other things that the scientific community is also looking at producing from the Smap observations. Any questions?
Feel free to unmute yourself if you'd like to ask a question.
Okay, so one thing. Oh, go ahead. I hear something.
Oh, okay. I wasn't sure if I was muted or not. Hi, this is Andy Henry. I was looking at your map when you're talking about the Amazon plume of fresh water flooding into the ocean, and also looking around the edges of the northern hemisphere, in particular around Greenland and northeastern United States. And I'm wondering if this is May through, did you say July?
Yes, correct. So it goes from around early May to early July.
So would you think that some of the intensive freshwater around the coastal areas of North America and Greenland would have to do with runoff from melt from the winter?
Yes.
Okay. That's
Yes, a lot of it does.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions? Make sure you unmute yourself first. Okay, well, thank you, Erica. That's great. Yeah, I haven't seen this map yet, so this is it's a really cool map to really see the differences in the salinity for sure. All right.
Great, thanks, Brian. So I'll be hanging around. If anyone wants to type a question, I'll be happy to answer it.
Great.
As Brian goes through the rest of the presentation.
So we're going to quickly go through soil moisture measurement activity that has been going on since we started the campaign. This is just showing you in April where data has been collected. So we've had a pretty good month. We've had a couple new countries, and I'll introduce those in a second. Here is where we've been located doing the Smap soil moisture measurements since launch of the satellite. And here we are with the data counts. Since the launch of Smap satellite on January 31st of 2015, there have been 2,166 protocol measurements taken, 10 countries collecting measurements at 119 collection sites. We have some new schools, one school, actually two schools in Saudi Arabia, the Shada Intermediate and Secondary School at Sabia, and the 45th Secondary School Girls School at Makkah Al Marma. And we really welcome them. They're getting in some great data. Croatia, we have one, Ivana Filipova. In Croatia, a new school there. Ukraine, we just started taking measurements. We have a school from Ukraine, the Kovalivsky Educational Complex. And also in the United States, we have a new school, Allendale Columbia School in New York. So we have some coming in from across the world that have just started collecting data, and that is excellent. And also, we would also want to welcome the National Wildlife Federation's Eco Schools program to the Smap campaign. What's happening here is that at least 80 teachers are being trained in the Smap protocol through the National Wildlife Federation's Eco Schools program. It's Eco Schools USA. So we're going to have teachers who are going to be doing this training. They're going to be going in and training other teachers as well. So hopefully in the near future, we'll have a lot more data coming in from these teachers from around the world, and especially for the Eco Schools program from around the country. So if you look here, this is the entire list. Sorry, it gets small. The text gets smaller and smaller and smaller because we keep on adding schools to this. But we have some great measurements coming in. We have this is the total data collection. So we'll start here. Our first school, which is in third place, is a surprise because they came in only about almost a month and a half ago. And that's Danchan Widayakum in Thailand, and they have 124 measurements for Smap. Second place is Shoemate Middle School in Michigan. Teacher Jeff Bauman, who gave a presentation during our last webinar. They are
Shoemate.
Yeah, go Shoemate in Michigan. They have 265 measurements. And make sure you go on the Globe website under the Smap campaign, and you can actually go and look at all the amazing stuff that Jeff and his school have done in relation to Smap and other missions, but there and other campaigns, and measurements. But there is actually the video from last webinar that is posted there under the campaign website. And then in first place is the Osnovna Škola Varaždin in Croatia. They have 323 measurements for the Smap campaign. So these three groups make up a huge percentage of, I should say these three schools make up a huge percentage of the Smap data collection coming in, and they are very dedicated, as are all the teams collecting data for Smap, and we're really excited to see this really coming in, and really happy. And I know Erica on the Smap science team side of things, what they're really looking for is really that data density, and the data density, the better the density of the data, meaning the more data over a longer period of time, the better they can do the comparisons to the Smap satellite data. Is that pretty much correct, Erica?
Yes, that's correct, Brian.
All right. So great. So keep that data coming in, and maybe we'll have a new leader over the next month. But the Varaždin school in Croatia is really competitive, and they really take some great measurements and are really dedicated to it. So congratulations to everybody. And by showing this slide, I'm singling out these top three, but we really we are so excited about all the data coming in from all the schools, for sure. If you haven't seen it already, we do have the Smap data layer in the Globe visualization map online. When you go and look at the data, you can go up to the top part here where it says NASA data layer, and you just choose the base map of L3 soil moisture, and you can pick any day, and it'll tell you where Smap, and it'll show you what Smap covered during that day. You can then match your data up, the volumetric data that you get for your measurements, and match it up to what the Smap satellite does. And now we will pass it on to our featured presentation, and that is Bowling Green State University. The title is Soil Moisture from Within and Above. And I will let all the team members introduce themselves. I will stop sharing my screen, and you guys can share yours. So let me do that right now.
And Brian, while you're doing that, I'll give a quick introduction of this group, and then they'll introduce themselves and get going.
All right.
Okay, my name's Jody Haney. Thanks everyone for being here. I'm a professor emeritus at Bowling Green State University, and that's in Ohio. And emeritus, for those that are unfamiliar, means retired, smiling, but still active. Bowling Green, we've been a Globe U.S. partner since year 2000, and have been doing some good work there. I know my students are sad to see us fall off the leaderboard. We were really working on being a leader for Smap data, but I'm really proud of the work that they've done. This program is called the Action Program. It's a grant that's funded by our state, and the purpose is to recruit and retain high school and middle school science and math teachers in Ohio. And they have a 4-year research program, the first year being working in research teams of 4 to 6 students. And this is my research team, and the job is to collect environmental data. Before they leave the university, they do action research in the classroom as student teachers, so that they're looking to see how they can actually collect classroom-based data to see how they can improve their own instruction. So without further ado, I'll get to the people you really want to talk to and let them introduce themselves. So students, take it away.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for the introduction, Dr. Haney. My name is Bonnie Altstetter, and I'm an adolescent young adult chemistry and physics major.
My name is Logan Bretz, and I'm a middle childhood education, science, and math major.
My name is Emma Constance, and I'm also a middle education, science, and math major.
Hello, my name is Janelle Manjan, and I'm also a middle childhood education, math, and science major.
And there are two other team members, Kim Wheatley and Beth Zeno, who helped us with our research project, but unfortunately we're not able to make it to this webinar today.
All right, so first and foremost, why is investigating soil moisture important? Well, in the environment, soil moisture influences multiple parts of the atmosphere, and understanding soil moisture in certain locations can help predict for things such as floods, droughts, weather forecasting, carbon cycles, and crop productivity. So one last reason that our soil moisture is very important is because we are looking to help improve the NASA satellite model. And these are our 3 research questions that we came up with. Our first one is, how did our soil moisture differ across our 9 testing sites? We designated 9 testing sites across Bowling Green's campus. And our second one was, how did the GLOBE program soil moisture bucket drying method compare to the oven drying method? So as seen here, we used 2 drying methods, and we wanted to compare them. Our third one was, how did our GLOBE soil moisture compare to the NASA satellite data?
Okay, and this is a list of some of the tools and materials we use throughout our research. And one of the most important ones was the soil oven and the bucket. But our methods of collecting the soil, we first remove the surface area of grass from the preset grid on each site, and then we place an aluminum can into the ground and then tapped it with a hammer to fill the can with soil. And then we scooped out the can using a shovel and scraped away the extra soil to fill the can completely so it was even and not overflowing onto the can. And then we wrapped the can and placed it in a plastic bag, and then we took the samples back to the lab and weighed each can while the soil was still wet. And then we placed the can in its respective 75 degrees Celsius bucket or soil oven, because those were our 2 methods of drying the soil. And then the following week after the soil is dried, we re-weighed the soil and then determine the volume of each can using a graduated cylinder. We then calculated the percent moisture and reported back to both the GLOBE website and the Google Sheet. And we completed all of these steps for each of the sample sites and all the cans we collected.
So this is Erica Potas. I have a question about your order of things here. You weighed the can, however, you had emptied the can. Right, so what you should have, you needed to weigh the container where you were drying the soil.
Yeah, we also weighed the empty container before we put the soil in it. That was like before we went out and collected the soil moisture, the soil.
So the weight of the wet mass, how did you weigh that? Was it the soil in the can?
So we took, so previously before we started this process, we weighed the can like without anything in it, and then when we weighed it with the wet soil in it, we subtracted the weight of the can, so we just got the weight of the soil, or the wet soil. Does that make sense?
I see, okay. Because step 4 there says that you put the soil, oh, I see, you put a plastic wrap and then you placed the whole can in a plastic bag. Okay, I
yeah,
thought
we
you
didn't
had
want to
placed
lose any of the soil because the lids were very difficult to keep on, and then when we were moving around, the dirt was easily able to get out.
I see, I understand. I thought you had actually dumped the contents of the can into plastic.
Oh, no.
Okay. All right, sorry, carry on.
No, no problem.
Okay, and our first graph shows, it compares all our 9 sample sites, the soil moistures, and we separated the graph into irrigated land, non-irrigated land, and natural land. And as you can see that the irrigated land has the most soil moisture compared to the other 2 land sites. So this is just comparing the soil moisture of our 9 sample sites.
Our second research question asked, how does the bucket drying soil method compare to the oven? And what we did, we used these 3 sites, the tech pond, golf course, and library, and we took 2 samples of soil from each of these sites. We placed one can in the bucket and 1 can in the oven, and then we compared how similar they were across all of the days that we collected data. And as you can see from our results, the oven and the bucket method are both just as effective. So if like a school wanted to conduct some research for GLOBE, they could know that the cheaper bucket method version is just as effective and a lot cheaper.
Can you briefly explain the bucket method?
Oh, of
again,
course.
please?
Yes, absolutely. So what we did is we had a bucket with a heat lamp over it, and it was the same temperature as the oven, and we placed the soil in the bucket with the heat lamp over it, let it sit in there for a week, and then measure how much soil moisture was in it. About it, right? Mm-hmm.
So our third and final research question was, how did our data compare with NASA's Smap satellite data? So this graph shows ours versus SMAP's data. The green bar is an average of all of our 9 sites, and then the black bar is what SMAP collected on that day. So for the most part, you can see that the values are very similar. The huge outlier that we had was on November 30th, and I'll talk about that in a second. We put an asterisk next to the days, so like you can see like October 26th, November 2nd, and November 16th all have little asterisks underneath them. This is just, so we collected data on that day. So for example, we collected data on October 26th. Well, the SMAP satellite missed the Bowling Green region that day, so we just took the data from either the day after or the day before, so that's what you're looking at. So for November 30th, our big outlier, we collected some metadata that day that told us that there was frost on the ground, so this could be a possibility as to why the values are so different. We were also thinking that the SMAP satellite might be having trouble reading areas close to larger bodies of water, like we're all next to the Great Lakes, so this might be a reason why it's having trouble with that. We also checked into some other schools around the area, so we checked the school in Schumer, Michigan, who's collecting SMAP data, and they also read very different from the data that the satellite collected that day. Their data was also significantly higher, so that might be any reasons for that outlier.
Right. So hold on, go back.
Yeah.
So one thing I wanted to point out is that we don't expect there to be a close match necessarily between what SMAP measures and what you're measuring. So remember, you guys are 1 point, and SMAP sees a large area. It's about 36 kilometers by 36 kilometers. So there's a lot of variation within the area that SMAP sees. So what we're looking at are the trends. So does your measurements have the same trends as SMAP, or does SMAP have the same trends as your measurements in terms of the drying and wetting? And you can see that here, I think for the most part, that both measurements show a wetting and a drying, except for that November 30th one, where you guys show slight wetting, or about the same conditions as the last measurement. However, SMAP shows a significant wetting. Or no, the other way around, sorry. So it could be, yes, it could be contamination from the lake. That is something to take into account since you're very close to the edge of the lake. It could be that there was a weather event within the area that SMAP observes. So a local rain or a local weather event. Frost might have affected it too. So it could be one of many things.
Mm-hmm. Right.
All right.
So this shows our data compared with SMAP's data and a school in Croatia compared with SMAP's data. And something that we thought was interesting when we were looking at them is that the data that we collected and the school in Croatia collected both seems to be just a little bit higher than SMAP's data. So we were thinking maybe there's something going on with the algorithm of the satellite that is causing our data to, or causing their data to be a little bit lower than what ours is. So we thought that that was very interesting.
For this one, the image on your left is showing the an entire world of just one swipe of the satellite collecting data. And the little dots are representative of where schools are collecting data, soil moisture, and all that. And then on your right is a picture of a close-up of where we're at. The black dot is particularly where we're at, and this colored layer is showing the soil moisture. And on that particular day, we calculated 15% soil moisture, while Smap calculated about 14% soil moisture. So again, we're pretty similar on what's it, October 5th. And we used these keys on the bottom in order to help us interpret what Smap collected that day.
Okay, so you guys have then been using SMAP data from what you think the value is for the color, what you think the approximate value is.
Yes.
Okay, all right. So one thing we can do is if you guys provide me with the lat long of your location, I can go and extract the actual SMAP data for your site.
Great.
That would,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah, we can send you that after this webinar. That would be fantastic.
Okay.
Thank you. We also took in the look at our outlier, which was November 30th. And on that particular day, we collected 26% soil moisture, while SMAP collected 14% soil moisture. And again, we collected some metadata that Logan said earlier that we had frost in some clouds that day, which may have affected why we had such a difference. And in conclusions for our first research question, based on our data and our graph from the 9 sample sites, we concluded that irrigated land had roughly double the soil moisture of natural land, and perhaps BGSU could save money and resources by decreasing our irrigation practices. For our second research question, we discovered that there's no significant difference between the oven and bucket method of soil moisture data. Therefore, if a school did not have the resources to use a soil oven they can use the bucket method, which would just be as effective. And finally, our last conclusion was our globe soil moisture data was on average 0.04 or 4% higher than the data that was collected by NASA SMAP satellite. One data point accounts for most of the variance. It appears that globe data and the NASA SMAP data are well correlated.
So for next steps, we thought that a good idea would be to take samples across the whole Bowling Green region, which is a 36-kilometer area. All of our 9 sites were located pretty close to each other. As you could see on that picture Bonnie was talking about earlier, it was just that little black circle out of that whole grid. So perhaps taking measurements across that entire area would give us a better representation of the soil moisture in this area. Next, we said, making ground observations on the same day as the SMAP flyovers. We did have a couple of days where we collected data on one day, but the satellite either missed us. It was either a day before or the day after. We could compare our data with schools around the world, and we could collect globe data in different environments such as deserts, tropical regions, tundras, just to get different idea of the measurements. And these are our references. Thanks for listening.
You guys have any questions?
Great job.
Thank you.
That was a great job, great presentation. So the last point that you made about collecting soil moisture in different bioregions, is that something that
Keep your presentation.
you want to look at from schools that are already collecting soil moisture in different regions of the world, or are you guys planning on doing a field trip to different regions and coincidentally collecting soil moisture, or what's the plan?
It could just be possible.
Well, I guess, how do I want to say this? That's just something, I guess, when we finished our research and we kind of gathered all of our information, and if we were to continue doing this, that's something we would want to look at, because again, Bowling Green only has really one type of terrain. So if we were to do this, I guess, again, or continue our going in different regions, that's the particular regions we would look at. We wouldn't just look at another Bowling Green area or like Toledo. We would go somewhere else. I guess that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, so it's a very good point. I'm glad you guys are thinking about these things, because it is very important to do your validation in different regions of the world, different ecosystems around the world. And that's something that the Smap team, the Smap CalVal team tries to do.
All right.
Good
Awesome.
job, everyone. Could I come in with one comment that might be helpful for the others that are sitting in on this? And that was the whole notion of the soil bucket. We know that the GLOBE protocol said to dry the soil for 2 days in a soil oven. The way this research team worked is that we only met 1 day a week on Mondays. And so, we had to kind of deal with those constraints. So we really worked hard before we started collecting data to make sure we could keep that bucket in the oven the same temperature. So we found 75 degrees Celsius worked really well without melting the bucket and without over drying the soil over that week. And then we also tested the soil throughout the week to make sure that it truly was dry, to make sure that we didn't keep getting changes in the soil moisture or the weights. So that the soil bucket and the soil oven were kept at 75 degrees Celsius, and it was a 1 week period of time, knowing that was a slight modification to the protocol, but we had to deal with our 1 week constraints. And just as an FYI, I was playing around with the fact that wondering if I could get the sun to be just as hot as a heat lamp. So I built a solar bucket, which was just a black plastic bucket, put a lid on it, put some holes at the top just for ventilation, just drilled holes around the circle, not the lid, but the actual bucket, and left it in the sun in Ohio in the summer, and I could get that to 75 degrees, no problem. So I'm just curious if there's a group out there maybe located closer to the equator that would test the solar bucket method, and that might be something really cool too.
Yeah, that's a great point. Actually, that's one of the things we tested here in our lab. The problem with the solar bucket is you can't ensure consistency. So
right.
You might be able to dry a sample on a sunny day, in 2 days, but if you've got cloudy weather, it might not work as well. That's the only problem.
Yeah, that's what I was noticing when I would reweigh the can, is that if I would weigh it when it was done being at the end of a day being hot, it would weigh out just fine. But if I left it in there, I think it's picked up a little condensation overnight, because it would weigh out more in the morning than it did, in the middle, at the end of that hot day. So,
yeah.
But if somebody could actually weigh it at, peak solar time and know that they've got it dry, that might work. But anyway, just an observation.
Yeah, it's a good point. Yeah, and I'm sure it would probably work well in very dry places and where you have consistent sun.
Yes.
But yeah, in other places it's tough, especially in humid places.
Yep.
All right. I see in the chat box there's a lot of good discussions about the presentation. So, great job, everybody, for all the hard work you've been doing and, staying on top of everything. And, really excited to see the slide, especially that compares the trends of your data versus the Smap data, and also looking at the school and the Varazin school in Croatia. So yeah, that's what we're really looking for. We're looking for those trends in the data, as Erica mentioned. We're not looking for the data to match up exactly. That just won't happen. So yeah, we're really looking at the trends over time. That's where the vital data really comes in, the vital data comparison. So awesome job. Anybody have any questions for the team or for Dr. Haney? And please unmute yourself. It's a pretty quiet group today. They'd rather throw stuff in the chat box. That's fine.
I guess we do want to take a moment to say thank you to everyone for listening to our presentation and giving us great questions and feedback on it. It's really helpful for us.
All right. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. That was really great.
Thank you.
And I see I see at least one question from Vicky. When will the Smap campaign blend with the El Nino campaign? And I'm about to get that in a second, but in the short answer, as soon as this webinar is over. So it's going to be a transition into that. So I'm going to pop back on to the PowerPoint presentation. I'm going to share my screen, pop back into that. Alrighty. So thank you again, Bowling Green, for the awesome work. One thing that we are looking for still, and I make this plea at the Smap webinars, and also we make this plea at the El Nino Field Campaign webinars, is that we really want some teacher guest bloggers. And we don't want to eat up, any of your time, because your time's valuable, and as teachers, you don't have a lot of time. But we're really looking for bloggers that want to share their experiences and of how they've collected the data and what they've done. Kind of like we see here. You don't have to do the extent to which Bowling Green did, a whole research project, but a little bit about what your team has done, what your students have done. Maybe some images, of course, but also just the experience of collecting the Smap data and what you've been doing with the data, beyond the campaign, and basically how you might think what you're doing fits into understanding El Nino. So feel free to send me an email at any time, brian.a.campbell@nasa.gov, and let me know if you're interested in doing this. All right, so as you know, the Smap satellite is pretty technologically advanced when it has the rotating antenna. So this video called Technical Origami will really show you how many people had to be involved in order to build something of this nature, and how the testing had to go at the Jet Propulsion Laboratory, how the testing really basically you had to figure out how an antenna like this, a rotating antenna that you'll see it open up like an umbrella and start rotating, how that will work in a 0G environment. So you're looking at no gravity versus gravity on Earth, and how did they test that? And that's what this video is about. So it really talks about how you get scientists and engineers and basically all the groups together, the interdisciplinary groups together to try to figure out a problem in building the satellite and coming up with a solution. So I'm going to start this right now.
Deploying large structures in space is one of the most difficult things NASA does.
The antenna, the computer, the thrusters, all of those things have been used before. But when you put them together in this system with this large rotating antenna, what you get is a pattern that covers the entire planet. And with that comes some engineering challenges.
What we need to do is develop an antenna that's very small before we launch it, and then it blooms out to a much larger antenna on orbit. That's one of the big challenges for Smap.
There's a 20-foot antenna at the top of the spacecraft. When you look at how that system works, this large umbrella-like looking thing collapses down just like an umbrella would, folds at the elbow, and then folds again back along the side of the spacecraft. Packaging that bit of technical origami is the real trick.
We need to test the antenna on the ground like it will be deployed in space. But the antenna was designed to operate in zero gravity, which makes testing on the ground quite challenging. We can't just simply deploy it on the ground and then spin it up. So what we have to do is test the whole system in pieces.
First, we look at what it takes to sort of balance the spacecraft. Then we look at how that whole system behaves together when you spin it.
We test the reflector extensively by itself. We test the boom that deploys it by itself. We also have a very challenging thermal environment on orbit. It can see 100 to 200 degrees variation in temperature.
We take the data that comes from each one of those little tests and we put it into the model to describe the end-to-end behavior of the system.
Testing and testing and testing, and we test a little more until we're convinced that we've tested all the different environments and met all the requirements of the system.
We considered every scenario from science and engineering, physics that we can imagine. It's human nature that you always would like to do more, to be more convinced. But there's a fine line between testing too much and breaking something and testing enough and convincing yourself it's good.
We've gone through at least 10 to 12 deployments just while it's been here, and most of them have been successful. A few of them we've had problems with, and we work with the team to figure out what the problem is and resolve it. And then we've had 3 successful deployments right before we shipped it, and they were all picture perfect.
This is probably one of the greatest accomplishments of any of our lives. It's not often you get to be part of a mission that has a global impact. You know, children, we all imagine someday being able to do something that'll change the world, or somehow being heroic, and being able to contribute to the strength, to the health of the planet, and to the human race is incredibly powerful.
All right, so that really showed you that, you know, one piece of this puzzle and all this data that you're comparing the globe, your globe collected data to, you know, wouldn't have been possible if it wasn't for the engineers, I guess, coming up with this antenna and making it work, because that's how we're able to get this global moisture data, you know, a global map every 3 days. So really exciting to see this, how it's built and all the technology that goes into it. And all these videos that I showed today can be found on the Smap website. You can find them just under the, I think it's listed, not education, but I think it's listed under media. So you can find it all under that as well. So they're all available. Sorry, that's just an example of the blog, as I mentioned earlier. The big question is, where is Smap going from here? Where's the Smap campaign going? The satellite's still going to be flying, of course, taking measurements, but in an effort to, with the GLOBE program, with field campaigns, what we're really looking at from now on is basically looking at the overall themed approach to field campaigns as part of GLOBE. And what that means is we're looking at the bigger picture. We're looking at multiple missions doing multiple things, and the utilization of multiple protocols. So with this campaign, the Smap field campaign will transition to the GLOBE El Nino campaign, which is currently happening now. We began this campaign, as you may know, on March 1st of this year. And as part of this campaign, we have measurements taken in up to 6 protocols: precipitation, maximum air temperature, surface temperature, soil temperature, SMAP, soil moisture, and biometry, canopy, and ground cover. So because SMAP is already part of the Global El Nino campaign, we didn't necessarily want to duplicate efforts, and with everybody's time involved and the resources at GLOBE, we have going to be transitioning this as of the end of this webinar to the El Nino campaign. And I'm still here. I'm actually, as you may know, I'm the lead of the El Nino campaign. So, I'm still your, quote unquote, fearless leader for this. But please keep those SMAP measurements coming. And as part of the webinars that will take place every week up until June, and then we'll have a bit of a hiatus. So basically, we're following the path of the El Nino event. El Nino is in its it's winding down now. We don't know specifically, but we have a pretty good idea that there will be a La Nina following the El Nino. If that's the case, we will then have a La Nina campaign, which will be using these protocols, and we may throw a couple more in there for this, but we will be highlighting your efforts with SMAP. I will still be keeping an online a data count, and I will be posting to the SMAP campaign. That page, the page won't go down. It's just a matter of the webinars. Specific webinars will then just be the El Nino webinars, and there won't be a specific mention to the SMAP field campaign. It's just the El Nino campaign, which includes the SMAP protocol. So that's where we are, and that's where we're headed. And that doesn't mean that SMAP is ending. Just the field campaign, the specific field campaign is that because it's transitioning into the larger campaign. So no tears need to be shed because of this, but we've had great measurements so far, so there's no reason for them not to continue. And I know we'll have the support of the SMAP science team and Erica and Narendra as well. Please continue to, if you have questions about the SMAP measurements, I'm always open for emails. Send me emails. Post stuff on the on the website, the GLOBE website, about what you're doing. If you have any questions, we have the community room there as well. So that With that, I will stop my share. And if anybody has any questions, please feel free. I'm going to go back and look at the chat. There was a question I saw in here. This is for Bowling Green from the Globe group from a Roller at Globe. Will your team be presenting at the Midwest Regional Science Fair by any? Will we be presenting at the Midwest Regional Science Fair?
We are not presenting there. The students are out there. This is exam week for them, so they'll be graduated. But we are hoping to come to Estes Park and present a poster presentation and maybe more. So we're really hoping for that, and the students are very excited about our trip to Colorado.
Yep. So am I. Yep, that'll be a great time. I'll be there for the whole time. So yep, very cool.
Cool. I'll see you guys there as well. I'll also be at the Regional Science Fair in the Midwest one.
All righty. Okay, and also, Judy, you want to say something about your question here? You can do it kind of out loud here so everybody can hear that. A collaboration.
Oh, the middle school mentor thing. Is that what you're asking us?
Yeah.
Well, I know Dr. Haney brought up she's having another research group this coming year, so she could easily have something go on with there. But if they want to talk to us, I'm sure we could figure out something that we could do, swap information and all that.
Yeah, I'll have a new research group starting next fall, and we could potentially do a collaborative project with whatever schools would be interested. And it would really be ideal because these students are going to be teachers in the future, middle school and high school teachers. So how cool is that? And I bet I could convince this team to be a part of that in some way, shape, or form, even though they'll be on to next year they do an internship in business and industry to see how science and math is used in business and industry. But I bet I could get them involved, with a collaborative project to be mentors. I think that'd be really great.
Yeah, that sounds excellent. Yeah, that'd be great to see a collaboration, for sure. I'm looking forward to a new team of researchers with you, Dr. Haney. It'd be great. So, all right. So, anybody have any other questions? We are approaching the 12 o'clock p.m. Eastern time hour, so our hour's about up. And also, if you're not on, please check the Globe website. There's going to be an El Nino field campaign webinar tonight. This is webinar number 7 in the campaign, and it's at 8 o'clock p.m. Eastern time. And Dorian Janney from the GPM mission is leading the webinar. And tonight's webinar will focus on one of the protocols, specifically the biometry protocol, the tree canopy and ground cover protocol. So we'll be featuring that as well. And we also have data counts on there as well. So please feel free to check out the Globe website and register for that webinar if you haven't already. All righty, well, thank you everybody. And I'm gonna stop recording if there's no other questions. All right, well, thank you everybody for coming, and we look forward to seeing you again.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.